Hello and welcome, I'm Ashysaurus, aka Ashy, and today I'm going to be talking about my personal pros and cons for Dragon Age the Veilguard. As a fan that's mostly just soaking in everything from the sidelines, I wanted to talk about this and give out my pros and cons that are personal to me, and maybe that can help out someone else. So if this is the type of content you would like to see, Dragon Age, bioware, or news, you're in the right place, so like and subscribe to see more. Pro, the game looks beautiful compared to the other games. Just from the hair and environment alone, it looks incredible, and you can't look at this game and not say that it is a massive upgrade from in the series. And I will say that this game does look pretty in a lot of aspects of the game, and I know a lot of people have been super excited to see this game because some parts it looks like if Dragon Age Origins was like, in higher quality, and also if Dragon Age Inquisition was also higher quality. So I know a lot of people are super excited, especially after the video that they released showing off the companions and stuff like that. They were showing off new rooks and stuff like that, and it looked extremely nice. So I know a lot of people are going to be talking about the graphics for this, at least from this standpoint. On the graphics and art style. First, I'm going to be talking about the art style because it's very different from the others, and though many are okay with it and many think the art style didn't continue with the realistic art style that Dragon Age Inquisition, and that bothered some people, for me it also bothered me because I just don't really like the way that this game looks. I just don't think that this game looks very nice, in my personal opinion. I just think that sometimes this game looks plasticky, untextured, and that's what brings me into the graphics, that the graphics is disappointing to some fans, and I know I got comments talking about that, and I know people are expecting from Baldur's Gate 3 that everyone was going to look like that in Dragon Age Veilguard, and I understand that. We were expecting more textures because even in Dragon Age Inquisition, they had a lot of textures on their skin and stuff like that, especially on PC. They had more textures and stuff like that, and you could use freckles, and it just looked like none of the people that they put in the game, at least as their rooks, had skin texture. Only sometimes, like, there will be images of the female rook that had skin texture and some of them didn't. So I just wanted to mention that because that is a really strange thing to me, and sometimes these people will literally have no skin texture whatsoever, and the only one that seemingly has skin texture all the time is Harding, not Rook. So that's why I'm just mentioning that off there, because I can understand why people are put off by the way that this game looks, and even sometimes myself. It's not too bad for me, but I know some people are absolutely like not interested in this at all because of the way it looks. Pro, the gameplay looks fun, fast-paced compared to the other games, and after the warrior gameplay spotlight, many fans and even doubters said that they were drawn in by the new combat style, which I will agree. I think that the warrior combat looks so much fun that it even made me want to play as a warrior just from how fun it looks. And I think that this is a really cool new thing that we're going to be doing, and I just wanted to talk about this so badly because I do think the combat looks really fun for these two, at least the rogue and the warrior. It looks so much fun. It's very fast-paced, and I do like action combat, so I do want to talk about how that is a good thing in the gameplay aspect, that it does look really fun, and it looks like they actually did a lot of stuff that would be really cool, like with the staggering system and having that you could take down enemies and stuff like that. That looks really cool, and I just wanted to say that is a pro in this aspect because a lot of the Dragon Age games didn't really have full-fledged combat except mostly Origins, because they kind of knew what they were doing because it was based off of Baldur's Gate. Con. The combat is different from the previous titles. I know many fans were hoping after Baldur's Gate 3 that Dragon Age would have combat kind of like BAO and stuff like that, and I can understand why you're disappointed in that, but if you followed the games, you would know that they were going to have different combat because they have them in every title. So I'm not surprised by this, but I can understand why some people are, because some people just don't follow the games. But no, they weren't going to have any kind of combat like that, so I know it's disappointing, but if you follow the series, none of the titles had the same combat, so just gonna mention that there. But I do know that a lot of people have been complaining about the combat because they're afraid. For casuals, a lot of people who did play the game Dragon Age Inquisition, they were casuals when it came to combat, so now they're having this full-fledged combat, and even some of them complained about Baldur's Gate being a little too much for them, that they couldn't play it, so they're wondering how hard it's going to be for them playing Veilguard. And I can understand that too. I wonder that too. I'm not the best at action combat, but I'm excited about it. Whereas I can understand the con for some people who just don't like this kind of combat, and I can understand also the con for the mage combat. Myself and other people have complained about the mage combat. I won't go on to it too much, but I will say that this combat is much more sluggish and just slow compared to the other games in this series. And that I don't know why they did it, but a lot of people said that this change has made them even change who they might play as in Veilguard. Instead of being their class being a mage, they might just be something else. And I even said that in my last video. And I've got comments saying that they didn't really like the combat either. So I'm going to just say that this is a con for a lot of people, that they don't like the mage combat. And as of this recording, we haven't seen any more. So for now, that could change later. Even for myself, I'm not giving my final judgments on it. But I will say that right now, as of this, and it's almost a month away from it, this is a large con in my opinion for a mage combat. And I also wanted to mention some other things that people did not like. The skill system that you have in the game, you can only get a certain amount of skills, and they're on the bottom of your screen. Some people don't like that, and that you only can use like runes and things like that instead of using a bunch of skills like in Dragon Age Inquisition, where you had like a few rows of them to, you know, use different skills. And people are disappointed that you can only have 2 party members in your party. You cannot play as those party members either, and that you can only use like 3 skills and have them attack enemies where you want them to, or double team certain enemies. You can only do that through the wheel that they have, and I can understand why people are mad about it, because that is completely different, and that is mostly like Mass Effect than it actually is Dragon Age. And some people get very disappointed that they chose to make it more like Mass Effect than actually keeping it its own thing like Dragon Age. And I can understand that. Even Greedfall, apparently Greedfall 2 is going to have companions that you can play as. Some people are doing that, like Baldur's Gate 3 and now Greedfall 2. They have that, but Dragon Age is stepping away from that. And I know that that's a big con for some people who really like the franchise and who just jumped out of like Baldur's Gate and stuff like that and jumping in back into Dragon Age into Veilguard. You might kind of be like, wait, this is nothing like what I expected. So that's a con, and that's why I wanted to mention it. Bro, the companions are diverse, well-designed, and apparently woven into the storyline. I want to talk about the companions because I really like the way that the companions look, and like I said before, this is the first time we got an Asian companion, and I just think that this is really big for Dragon Age because a lot of times, a lot of the companions were just white, and I get that this is supposed to be Western fantasy, but a lot of Western fantasies like to neglect that the fact that a lot of people from other races did exist, and so when they make stuff like this, they always usually have white companions, and we only get some that are ambiguous sometimes. So this is really interesting to see the diversity in this game, and I'm actually glad that they tried to do something different, and many have already taken a liking of these companions, including myself, and some of these people have already figured out who they are romancing and their new artistic muse. If you've looked on Twitter, and everyone drawing Emmerich and other characters like Bucanis and stuff like that. So people have found their favorites, and this is a really big thing for the fan base. So we're already here. These are some likable companions from what I see of just the way that they look and some of the personality that they talked about. Con, the Qunari. I'm going to be talking about the Qunari because this is a huge con for a lot of people, and the Qunari just look very strange to me and a lot of other people, and I'm going to mention how unflattering they look. A lot of people, including myself, have said that the Qunari look too human-y looking at certain aspects, and then they have really large foreheads, because I think it's also the hairline. Apparently, people believe that if maybe they put some more like wrinkles and stuff like that from it bulging from the head, and then adding more hair in the front, it would make it look less weird. The problem is a lot of people are saying that they look like ugly tieflings, and I'm just like, I wouldn't know too much, but I can understand why people are disappointed in the way that they look. And some fans are even asking BioWare to change them before launch, which is crazy. And some are hoping that you could change them in the character creator to make them look better. But as of now, we have no information about the character creator. So the Qunari will look like this until further notice. They showed up some other Qunari Rook in a IGN video. Here's a screenshot of that. And they also showed off that. And then they also showed off Tash, which personally, in my opinion, I'm sorry to say this, but I don't really like the way that Tash looks in-game from what they showed. I know other people are gonna like what she looks like. I'm just gonna personally say I don't like the way that she looks. I think the body type is really good because she looks muscular, and that's what I hope female Qunari will look like. And also, I think that she has the best like forehead and stuff like that, because her forehead isn't like bulging out, like it looks like she has a 5 head. She looks actually better that way. I just feel like they could have done better with the Qunari, because the Qunari is a huge part, and I think that they shouldn't have tried to make them look more human. They should have made them look more like monsters, because that's how they're described in the Dragon Age universe. So Pro, communication. They have been doing decent communication with fans, asking them what they want to see next, Q&As, and general responses to fans. So I wanted to mention that because that's actually really good. That's really good for bioware and stuff like that. I really am glad that they're doing that, especially what's been going on for the last few years, that people were afraid that it was going to be another Anthem situation because they weren't communicating for a few years, and now this year they're just communicating as much as possible, talking to the fans and things like that on their main accounts and things like that, so they can answer some questions when people are feeling like they don't have it. And also people like Mike Gamble, who works on the Mass Effect team, he was talking to fans and stuff like that and giving them a little bit of side notes and stuff like that, so that does help. And that's why I'm really glad, and I'm actually mentioning this as a pro, because they're having more communication with fans than other companies do, and I'm actually glad about that, because that makes you less worried than some other companies that just don't speak about their game at all and try to just throw it under the back burner, and then when the game comes out you kind of already knew it was going to be messy because they didn't want to talk about it. Con, the marketing. This is going to be a longer one because I'm going to talk about the marketing. I have mentioned this in previous videos if you have not seen them, but I am going to be honest with you, the marketing is not the best whatsoever. It's much better than what they did for Jedi Survivor and Immortals of AVM. They had some lackluster marketing. Some people didn't even know those games came out and stuff like that. Whereas with Dragon Age, they're doing their best to show it all the last few months. And even though it's cool, it's drip feeding, and I don't really like drip feeding information because it makes all the information scattered everywhere. So I personally think that he should have had a direct instead, because that would have benefited people who don't keep up on news and stuff like that. They would have had all the information in one place, and then they could have just continued having like blog posts about getting into it even deeper and stuff like that. So fans who really cared about that kind of stuff, like myself, they can read that stuff and talk about it. But for other people who are not like us, who are just like only one time they'll look at a trailer or something like that, they'll look at a direct or something like that, they got other information at that direct, and then they can figure out if they want to pre-order the game or play the game or something like that. They don't have that. All of this information is scattered everywhere, and that's another reason why it's so hard to make videos about this stuff, is because I have to make sure it's enough for one video, and then if it's not enough for one video I have to keep going, and then sometimes they'll just start throwing out information every for 3 days straight, and then you have to collect all that information, and that stuff gets scattered, especially for channels who make Dragon Age videos daily. They are talking about that every day, and that's just scattering information. And that's why I'm saying a direct would have benefited a lot for Dragon Age, because they're just dropping so much information in different places that some of the stuff from Game Informer is gone, and now they only have the stuff from IGN and the other companies that were doing during summer stuff. Like, we're losing some of that information, and the only way you can find it is from other people or archives. And that's why I'm like, they should have had a direct or something like that going over a lot of the stuff. Next in the marketing that I'm talking about is companions, and I'm going to talk about how I really don't like that they market the companions more important than Rook. They do not talk about Rook, and I find that very strange. You're supposed to be making big choices and things like that, yet they don't focus on you or the character that you play as. So the reason I'm complaining about this and talking about this as a con is that I just feel like they should talk about Rook a little bit more, because Rook is the character you're playing as, whereas they're focusing on the Veilguard, and you're the leader of the Veilguard, so why are you not being marketed as that big character? You know what I mean? And that's why I'm saying that it's a bit weird that they're choosing to only talk about the companions, then you're Rook. They're not even giving you like some kind of little background, things like that. I feel like there's just not enough of about Rook to share, because if they share it, they just share the entire thing. That's what I'm worried about, and that's why I say that's a con. Next is something that's a personal annoyance to me and a pet peeve, is I'm so sick of tired of the marketing for nudity, spicy romances, and stupid like intimate affairs. I am so sick of it. I know I talked about this before, but the marketing, they act so weird. If I say this all the time, if nudity was a normal thing and everyone was naked, no one would act like it's such a big deal. But people act like nudity and spicy romances is such a huge and big thing that they have to be like, guys, spicy this, spicy that. And I'm just like, okay, I get that for people who do like that kind of thing, but for me, I'm just like, I like the characters in the game as my romances and as my friends. I shouldn't be marketed as these people as just intimate dolls that I get to play with. Like, that's weird. I'm gonna be honest with you. Every time, ooh, you know, Tash had the spiciest romance that I've seen. Oh, you've seen Emmerich? You're gonna go off the wall when you see him. I'm like, that's weird. Why are you marketing your characters like they're dolls that you play with? It's in a weird way. Like, that's just weird. I just don't like it. It just comes off as weird. I don't think they ever did that for the other companions in other games, because I unfortunately did not be there during those launches, but I watched a lot of their interviews, and none of them seemed like they were really that weird, except for one clip for the movie, Cassandra's movie, where they were acting like they had to talk really weird about Cassandra. Other than that, I don't think they ever talked about the companions so weird and like over-sexualized. I just don't like it. It just feels weird. Lastly, I will talk about that's angering fans everywhere, including myself, is spoilers. They are spoiling so much these days that it's not even funny. Like, I can't even go into that game, like, I guess you could say blind, I guess you can use, is that I don't understand how I'm gonna be able to go in there like that when there's so much information. Every time they drop information, there's literal spoilers in it. Like, they're spoiling characters that could have been super interesting to meet on your own, and they just spoiled it. Like, the whole reasoning this character is here is been spoiled. Like, there are so many things that's been spoiled just because they couldn't stop talking about it. And there's some interesting things that they said, but some of them, they just keep spoiling them. At this point, I just put spoilers on some of my videos because I just don't freaking feel like making a whole nother video about spoilers. It's just that much spoilers that's dropping everywhere that I'm just like, at this point, I don't know what to do. So I'm just saying that personally to me, that it does frustrate me a bit that they are like literally just dropping spoilers every single time that there's new information. I think a lot of fans have been asking them like, when's too many spoilers? Because even now people are yelling at other people saying like, don't say anything about spoilers, don't do anything. Like, there was a whole thing going on Dragon Age Twitter that people were just getting angry at people saying that they're gonna spoil things because, you know, that and this, and some people were saying that beware of spoilers, and people were getting mad. Like, there is a lot of stuff going on with spoilers, and I think this is the time where bioware needs to look at it and be like, okay, no more spoilers, let them be able to sink that in their first playthrough by themselves, that kind of thing, instead of talking about it. Like, if this was information that's not in the game, like, oh, this character is in this game, but we're giving you some context because you don't learn that in the game. That's more of like a player can understand that instead of the actual character that you're playing as, kind of thing. That's fine, but on the other hand, they're just like letting go everything, and I just like, I don't need all this information. I want to go in there being like, wow, I did not know this. This is so cool. And I'm not going to because they keep spoiling everything. Bro, the writers are some we already know. So there are writers in this. I'm going to put writers on the screen because I can't pronounce their names, so I'm just going to put them on the screen. These are some writers that have been in Dragon Age for a while or wrote something for Dragon Age Inquisition or wrote some of the characters and things like that. But the people that I'm putting on the screen, they have at least wrote for Dragon Age before or something at bioware. So I'm just putting these on the screen because these are writers we already know. So people a lot of times say that there's only new writers on Dragon Age, and there is not. There is actually a lot of writers that were originally on there. Even though people like Mary Kirby has been let go from bioware, these are people that actually wrote on the game, finished their characters before they were let go, and these are people who worked on these characters and worked on this game. So I'm just gonna say that even though these people may have been let go and stuff like that, their characters are still there and all their writing is still there. So they do have potential to be making this game really good and stuff like that. So people who are worried, if you're worried, these are the same people who wrote Inquisition if you liked Inquisition, and these are people who wrote on the other Dragon Age games too, and some of your characters that you really like. So before you get all, oh no, there's new writers, a lot of people like to put that as misinformation. A lot of the people who did write the characters that you will be romancing or befriending, they are written by people who are known on the Dragon Age team beforehand, and they were only let go after they wrote these characters. So just wanted to mention. And our last con is that leveling up characters in Veilguard is much different than in the previous titles. In Veilguard, you have to level up your companions by having conversations with them and growing friendships. And instead of just making it that you level up with just XP, you have to actually grow your friendships with these companions. And I talked about this in another video, but just to say this again, that this is a very strange choice to do, because in the ending, why do we have to befriend people to get them higher level? They should be trying to do that on their own, as they are characters that they're trying to survive on their own too. And they should be able to be leveling up just from the XP that you all get in your party, instead of just being because I didn't talk to you that day, or I didn't talk to you and finish this quest of yours, that now you're going to be lower leveled. At least the way that they're saying it is that that's a really big deal in this game, that you have to talk to your companions and that actually levels them up. personally, to me, I think that's kind of lame, and I kind of think that's weird that you have to do it. And once again, a lot of people hate when people say Dragon Age games are dating sims, but this is reminding me of a dating sim. That you have to talk to these people to level them up and stuff like that, and that's a bit weird in my opinion, that this is supposed to be a game that's action focused, but for some reason, one of the biggest things I have to do is talk to people to make sure that they level up, because if I don't, then they're going to be lower level, and I just think that's a bit weird. In all of the other Dragon Age games, even in Mass Effect, you leveled up your characters by just having them in your party, or them just being there in your companion, you know, they're being your companion, they'll level up. So I think that was a bit weird in my personal opinion, but that's just one of my cons. So yeah, that's about it for this video, and I'm going to be editing this down as much as possible to get this out soon. But yeah, that's my pros and cons, and I just wanted to basically sit down and talk about Dragon Age as a whole again, and just say that, like, this game is coming out no matter what on October 31st. As long as nothing happens, it's gonna be coming out. So if you choose to buy it, if you don't choose to buy it, that's up to you. And that's why I'm asking at the ending of this video, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna buy the game when it comes out? Are you gonna pre-order it? Are you not gonna pre-order it? And if you aren't gonna pre-order it, why? And if you are pre-ordering it, what made you feel like you should pre-order the game? Give us some answers in the comments, and maybe that can inspire other people in the comments too. So that's it for this video, and I'll be in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. So thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next time. Bye!
Whoa, 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 I'm just a man missing you. Please understand, without you